Uh-huh.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That's the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I'm going to be your host.
And as always, I'm the fantastic dipshit known as Distance.
And tonight is the Metacast movie show about Imperium. Imperium is a 2016 crime thriller. It was directed by Daniel Ragusis, with a story by Michael German and screenplay by Daniel Ragusis.
It stars Daniel Radcliffe, Toni Collette, Tracy Letts, and Sam Trammell.
The budget for this movie I actually could not find online, and it had a very small box office release with a take of around 300,000.
The tomato meter rating is 85% with an audience score of 64%.
The story of Imperium follows Nate Foster. He's a young FBI analyst, and he decides to go undercover to infiltrate a white supremacist group that is suspected of planning a major bomb event. So to get into just like, go straight into my verdict. I was a big fan of this. I thought this movie was really well done. I thought the performances were great. I thought Daniel Radcliffe was really good in it. That was one of the things we were kind of looking for in this movie was a step out of the Harry Potter vibe, I guess, which I think he did really well. I did not get any hair other than the first time you see him with glasses on in this movie. For a second, I was like, Harry? But after that, he like quickly broke it, in my opinion. But
it's funny because we talked about like how it should be in his like contract negotiations to not have glasses.
Yeah.
And I forgot that he wore glasses in this movie, and like I actually laughed.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh shit, he's got the glasses.
Which and it was like he doesn't wear them for long because, as we talked about, he goes undercover and his undercover character doesn't have glasses. But like when you see him for the first minute, I was like, oh, he's Harry. But no. So I am going to give this movie a yes. I thought it was very well done. It's an interesting story, and I think it's a cool case of not very often do movies get like more relevant, but I feel like this movie in 2020 is more relevant than it was in 2016. So I would say, yes, watch this. If you haven't seen it yet, I would say it's only more relevant to watch it now.
Yeah. And for this one, it's there have been movies I've recommended that I've told people not recommended, but movies that I've picked for us to watch.
Yeah.
I've actually told people not to watch. This one for me is it's a yes. And I think that the thing that puts people off about the movie is that, yes, white supremacists, I don't think any reasonable person thinks that's a good idea. Skinheads, any kind of like terrorist activity or racism, like nobody likes that shit. And I think that that's one of the things that puts people off to the movie. But it's kind of the same, but it's the same reason why I like The Outsider that we did was 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Is because it addresses a lot of these things, and it's stuff that like it makes you think about it, and in some ways it pushes you to be a little scared. About, especially if you're American, because like it's based on things that have occurred. I'm sure it's loosely based because entertainment value, right? But in addition to like Daniel Radcliffe stepping out of like the Harry Potter thing and the theater thing that he seems to have been doing a lot of, I think that it's just a good movie, not just for the story, but for the kind of thought-provoking ideas in it too.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. I agree. Yeah. Well, let's start to spoil it, man. Let's get into the actual meat of this story.
Let's spoil it. I'm
trying to like I try to organize my notes in almost like chronological order. So like you've seen in like the note template that I have where I kind of split it between like there's the general notes and then I have what I call like the meta notes section. So it's like I've got like the general notes I kind of walk through like as I'm watching the movie, like almost in a like blow by blow, like, and then the meta is like what it's making me think about while I'm watching the movie, I guess. So yeah, like a lot of what you talked about was there is a lot that goes on in this movie that is of course it's a fictitious story with characters that are made up, but it is very like a lot of it is relatable to real world events and real world people in groups, like, I mean, of course, like in this movie they call them the AFL, but it's like that is obviously like Antifa, and there are other groups, like, I mean, or the like the radio host is like probably more often than not probably based off of multiple personalities that exist in the real world. So it's like these types of things are part of the world that we live in, whether or not this story is blow by blow true. But
I think they just say based on real events, right? Like, whereas other films would be like based on a true story. Like, I don't think any of the characters, like, obviously, they are based on people, but they never properly name anyone.
And which that can be apparently very, very loose. Like, you remember the movie The Mothman Prophecies? So that said based on true events. The true event was that bridge collapsing. So when a movie says based on true events, it apparently can be like you could take that very liberally, but I mean, and so I don't know how much of this story was actually true. I mean, but I mean, I'm sure there are FBI agents constantly going undercover into groups like this. So it's like that amount is just, a probably a very commonplace thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's kind of necessary, and it's weird because, and that's something I didn't think about till just now, but a lot of like the watching and the surveillance and the infiltration and things going on in the film, you hear a lot of people having a problem with it, that they believe that kind of stuff is compromising liberty a little too much. But I think that it's a consequence of liberty, that when you allow people to have their free will to do this and be this, well, then you will have things like this happen. And we do have rule of law here. So there are some times where, I mean, maybe some people think this is wrong. Privacy could be more like a privilege than a right, I think, for some people.
I agree. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if you do something suspicious, like, even if you're not necessarily breaking the law, you're going to get attention. Like, like these open carry activist people that like walk around with an AR-15 on their back in the middle of downtown, wherever. Like, look, I understand that you're allowed, like, in whatever state you're in, to carry this thing openly, that it's like a constitutional right, blah, 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 blah. But it is abnormal behavior. So
I'm fighting the urge to just pick up mine right now. Just, man, it's my right. It's my right, damn it.
I can do it. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm walking around downtown somewhere with this on my back, or even if it's a hunting rifle. It just doesn't. It's weird.
Well, in most places that is illegal, which is that's the weird thing. In most states, rifles are illegal, but pistols are legal to open carry. So most people have what are considered pistols by the ATF, but most people looking at them would call them a rifle. If you don't know the technique, like if it has a brace and not a stock, it's technically a pistol. And some, like, that's, most people see, oh shit, there's a guy with a rifle walking around, and that to them is like more often than not alarming. That is not a thing you see in most daily life.
And a lot of the time, you'll see the people that consider themselves to be activists walking around with the that are technically pistols. Yeah. That they'll do this. The cops show up and they have this, well, actually, moment. Yes. I'm like, oh my god, dude.
I saw a guy who he like specifically did that. He called it a Second Amendment audit. Like the point was to like test the cops and see if they knew, like, and that was like, one of the cops had a great like sense of humor about it. It was like, yeah, I appreciate you causing a panic, dude, thanks. Where I was like, that is really, that's what you're fucking doing. Like,
we saw the same thing. Because I remember the cops saying that, and I was like, yeah, bro.
Yeah, like it is like what the guy was doing is technically legal, but you can be within the law and still be an asshole. Like what you're doing is just asshole behavior. Yes, the law lets you do it, but
But there's two things that this movie kind of made me realize, that the people you need to be afraid of may not be the ones with like the people lined up with the swastika flags or Third Reich flags or whatever in combat boots, talking this thing, spouting off N-bombs left and right, saying the word Aryan a bunch of times, not really understanding what the word means. Maybe it's the people that you don't see out there saying all this stuff. Maybe the scary people are the ones that you don't know anything about.
Gary is much scarier than Roy. Roy maybe like I would rather run into Gary in a dark alley than Roy, but the actual like consequences of one's actions, like Gary can poses a much greater threat than Roy does. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because like the scene where Gary's the sort of like listens to classical music guy, right?
Yeah. Yep. Sam Trassel, I think is the actor's name. Yeah.
Oh, was that him? Okay, I didn't know. I wasn't sure if that was.
He was in True Blood for years. He actually played a character called Sam in True Blood. Yeah, that was like his biggest credit. Yeah, and apparently he was also the president in Homeland. I haven't seen much of Homeland, but when I went to his IMDb page, that was what also popped up.
But he actually reminds me of a author named John Eldridge. He's like a Christian author.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, hold on. That's not the Left Behind series guy, is it?
No.
Okay,
John Eldridge. Crap. What's the one? Wild at Heart is probably his best known book.
Okay.
But it's that guy. It's really weird, but because Gary's like the scene where you hear his kids talking about the treehouse.
Yeah.
And saying they need to protect themselves for when I'm not actually going to say the term because I don't think it's actually an acceptable thing to say.
Yeah.
But he uses a slur for like when they come, we need to protect ourselves. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. And then after that, Gary gets onto a guy for using profanity around his kids. I'm like, dude.
Those scenes were so well done. Like the swastika cupcakes. I love like the hospitality and the cuteness and like here's like, and it's like literal cupcakes with frosting with swastikas on them. And it's like, here you go. Like,
and the thing is like, I saw it and I think that there's two things the creators were getting at in that scene. It's like, this is fucking ridiculous. So make sure you laugh a little bit. And also it is very strange that this very clear, aggressive symbol is something so casual to these people, so accepted that you can put it on a fucking cupcake.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is it's like many people see that symbol as like a striking thing of hate versus like here is a family that in most optics are very normal, like what you would see as like the normal white picket fence family. And it's like, this is in their household behind closed doors, a very common idea that is, they're even vegetarians. Yeah. I loved that. The veggie burgers on the grill and everything. Yeah. That was hilarious. A lot of the tone in this was very well done. I think, so for my notes from the very beginning, we kind of touched on the idea of like entrapment in the beginning. I think was really well done with the scene with, I forget the first guy's name that was the first case that Nate was on in the very beginning where they just kind of show the last bit of that. So that guy, like during first of all, I was really impressed by Radcliffe's Arabic in the interview with him. I think was
very impressive. And like, I don't know much, but his accent sounded pretty good to me. I don't speak Arabic. I don't know, but that was very impressive. I agree with you. Yeah.
I went into this movie looking for range from the actor, and that was like one of the first scenes. I was like, oh, cool. I'm impressed. Like it just showed, I think, extra effort done like into the part, but it was interesting to hear him talking to that guy. That the situation that this man was in was like, that is like textbook entrapment. Like what you were saying. It is important to. I think law enforcement needs to do more than just punish, right? Like it's like if law enforcement is only reactionary, then it's like, okay, well, bad shit happens and then we just clean up after the bad shit, but we're doing nothing to try to prevent the bad shit. However, on the other side of that, we don't live in Minority Report yet, right? So we can't like actually predict what people are going to do. So you have to do stuff like this, like surveillance and things like that. But it gets to a point where with that first guy's case, in the conversation with Radcliffe, it's like, the case file said you provided parts to this bomb. And it was like, well, yeah, I provided a cell phone and some wires I bought from Radio Shack. And it was like, oh shit. Okay. So like we have such a situation here. And I don't know how true this can be to real life situations, but like, here's a guy that was saying some things that are not good, but was there any chance of that leading to any sort of action if he didn't meet this FBI agent that put everything in his lap? And it's hard to know if there's ever a real answer for that. It's like we know the timeline where he did meet someone who was able to give him bomb parts and everything else. And yes, he ended up being the person that would call and press the button and think that he detonated a bomb. But if he never met that guy, would that have ever happened? It's like that is entrapment to the T, basically.
Yeah, and the thing that I thought was kind of cool, at least with Radcliffe's character, Nate, right?
Yeah, Nate. It goes from Nate Foster to Nate Thomas. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Makes it easier that we only changed the last name.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how John Cena always plays a character named John in every movie.
Well, and that also that saved him when the dude recognized him at the rally and just yelled Nate. So it's like, I wonder if that's actually a tactic in Undercover, is to use a first name that you already go by.
And I mean, like, and actually hearing Daniel Radcliffe aggressively use a racial slur in public in a movie is like very unsettling, because he does it in that scene to, I guess, keep up the character.
He's a good actor. He's just a good actor. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job. Oh, side note, something somewhat weird to me. So I bought this jacket at Old Navy, like almost a year ago. It's a winter jacket that I bought, not almost a year ago. It's a winter jacket I bought in the spring, and it was dirt cheap. But the thing is I realized it looks almost exactly like the jacket that he's wearing in the movie. The green one, the lining in the jacket is orange. That's so funny. Is mine. It's got the zipper on the sleeve like a flight jacket, exactly like mine.
That's a nice jacket, though.
Oh, it's a cool jacket. I was like, man, this is bizarre. Yeah. It was just weird to me. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing for me, is I think he did a great job. Like, especially him saying a racial slur with an American accent makes it even weirder. So
and not just like, I don't want to let this go too. Like, Radcliffe's performance was great, but I also think Toni Collette's performance was great. Like, it wasn't just he wasn't like the only standout actor. I think that like everyone's job in this, I think, was really well done. Even the guy that played the radio talk show host, I didn't really know him from anything, but I thought his performance was believable, and he did that very well.
Yeah, he was convincing in every part of his role, like being like the radio host guy, his little persona that he did in front of the other people, the reality of who he was. Like, I mean, he did a great job. And like it's so cool, because what actors are doing is they're putting up a front.
Yeah,
they're being this character.
Yeah,
and I think it's really cool when it's like in Tropic Thunder, I'm a dude playing a dude pretending to be another dude.
Yeah.
Like, when you're able to be the genuine person as you're playing this role, but then also play that person acting like someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
Like playing another role.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, you're right. He really did a great job. Yep. And I mean, like he was misleading enough to the audience for you to kind of see a bit of a twist, And then you recognize, because there's another thing that made me realize, like, are the individuals that actually publish content like this on the internet, like, are they like legit, or are they just pandering and trying to make some money? Because he didn't give a shit about Nate until Nate said something about investing. He's like, oh,
exactly. Yep.
And then
I think, unfortunately, like, I think that's the same in a lot of religion. Like, I wonder how often is the leader, really impassioned with the belief, or is it like, is this just a way to make money, and like the congregation is a piggy bank? But
like, there's a lot of ways in which you end up not liking Dallas Wolf, and also Dallas Wolf's a pseudonym, and it's a very tough sounding pseudonym.
Is it Randy? I think was the real name, or
yeah. And his last name was like something really weird. It sounded almost Greek. I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was like several syllables and very like.
Oh, it should have been Jewish. It should have been something Steen, or like, oh, that would have been great. It's like Randy Goldstein.
That would have been classic. It would have been like a dude.
That would have been an extra layer. That's probably just too heavy-handed, though. But
that would have been too much.
Yeah, but yeah.
Like, it's really weird, like, that I didn't understand, like, a Bible-loving skinhead, or like, well, I guess he's a neo-Nazi.
It's apparently a very common thing, though. I mean,
but the beginning part is a narrative about the Hebrews, the sons and daughters of Israel, who are the exact people that they are.
That's the thing with religious texts, is I think that a lot of times it can lead to people perceiving it how they want to. And that can, you know what I mean? People can pick and choose. Think of how often people pick through Leviticus, and there's like a few rules they live by and ones they care nothing about. It's like, I think it's that same thing. It's like people just, they look for the reinforcements of what they already believe. And they're like, oh, well, here, I can point to this as to why I believe it, but I could ignore anything else that this says.
It's like, man, I like this. I like this, man. I ain't throwing no rocks at nobody for that shit.
Yep.
I'm ignoring it, you know.
Exactly.
But
yep.
yeah, and
But lobster's good. What do you? No shellfish.
like,
Fuck that.
yeah, it's like, I mean, I can't throw all of it out. I'm just gonna like not that part because I don't like it. But it's just, I don't know, man. I just thought that was so weird. It's so like, it just makes no sense. And I think Roy even talks about that he even says that he doesn't think it makes sense. I was like, man.
Well, no, I don't think it was Roy. I think it was his name Kevin? Because Roy was just kind of like the security guy that was kind of stupid and always getting into fights. Kevin was the one that kind of brought him into that group.
Oh, okay.
I think it was, yeah.
The other way around. Okay.
But no, he does, and yeah, because he even says to I forget the guy's name, Andrew, I think was the guy's name, that was trying to like talk to Nate about joining them instead, and he was like, I think he's too rational for that. I don't think he's into that religious stuff or whatever. Like, yeah. But I mean that's common in even with the KKK. I think they used the Bible to like affirm their beliefs a lot. Like they claimed that they were like a religious organization and like what they were doing was like effectively like Christian work. It's like that was what Andrew was saying when they were in that like very high tension scene where he was basically like calling him out for being an infiltrator. He was like, yeah, we'll just tell them we're a Christian organization. We don't have to worry about like permits or whatever. But
I mean, it's a nice cover up. I mean, it works. And you know, like the thing for me is that with the character Gary, there's just a lot of cognitive dissonance there. And see, that's the thing about this movie is that the way that they do these characters is it causes some degree of paranoia for the audience, because it makes me think like, how many people do I work with who might be white supremacists and I don't even know?
I think it is very well done. Yeah, especially I love the transition. It almost felt like story-driven video games when you're like a picture like Grand Theft Auto, when you work your way up from one boss to the next boss, they become more and more of some sort of characteristic. In this, it was like Nate, as he met like each person through the movement, it was like they were more and more of this like put together, not at all what you would picture. Like Andrew was much more collected. In Nate's character, even to like fit in with them, started to reflect that. It was like he went from wearing the jeans with the rolled up legs and like boots to then like a shirt and a tie, and just like kind of like dressing more and more like to fit into this crowd that was almost more like mature, or for lack of a better term, like cleaner than the like skinhead group. But
yeah, because when you look at skins, like, did I tell you that like I was actually at a hardcore show, like Hatebreed were playing, and there were actually skinheads there. Yeah, there were like two of them. You could spot them from a mile away. The suspenders and the combat boots. And they were like picking fights with people and shit in the pit, and they kicked him out. Yeah. Like they stopped, and Jamie Josto was like asked the security, "Hey, these two guys here, like, you don't fight at our shows." And I was like, and I think that he didn't want to call them out for being skins because he didn't want to get accosted after the show. Yeah. But like, I was very far away, and I was like, oh man, like I just look not white enough that these guys might, and that's like something that it was just scary to me. Like, but to think that like,
and that's like you were talking about with the singer, it's the same thing that law enforcement has to deal with, where it's like, by looking at them, there's probably going to be a problem, but you're an asshole to say, right off the bat, like, oh, we're not going to let you in because of how you look. Like, well, that's, I think that's against what we try to fight for in America, is like telling someone because of what, but at the same time, it's like, well, shit, like, you can,
I mean, well, yeah, it's like, but it's like, they're wearing the skinhead uniform, and I wasn't close enough to them to see if they had any tattoos. Like, I don't think, because the double light bolt's a pretty popular one for them. Like, one of the characters has that, and that's another thing I wanted to
say with the like how you look too, is there's how you look and there's how you choose to look, and like wearing a uniform is just different than like you were being born to look a certain way, which I think that is like true. But it is like, I mean, if you see someone dressed like that though, I don't think it necessarily says what they believe, but at the same time, it's like, if most people know better, right? Like I know that I'm not gonna, like, no matter what I believe, I'm not going to shave my head, put on like a white t-shirt with suspenders and jeans and walk around, because that's going to be perceived a certain way. I could argue up and down that I don't think it's right for people to ruin like the memes I've had before of like, I don't think it's right that Hitler ruined a mustache. I'm going to take back the toothbrush mustache. Like, you can't do that. Like I do honestly believe that. I think it is stupid that one person has ruined a facial hairstyle that you literally just can't wear it anymore. But I recognize that's realistic, that it is just that one person was that bad that he was able to do that. He killed a mustache.
Yeah. And it is like, it's kind of funny, but it's also like hilarious that like that just tells you like what a significantly bad figure that person was.
Yeah.
And you know, like I get it, like maybe they're just people that liked punk music, and they weren't, they were kicked out, but they were asked to leave because they were fighting.
Exactly. And that's where I was saying that the singer made a good choice of like waiting until they actually acted in a way that deserved it. But.
And I mean, he may not even notice what they were wearing or like thought that maybe they were skinheads or something like that. But that's the thing, is they don't like, because that band in particular wants to have a very positive environment.
Yeah.
So like when someone like starts doing stuff like that's negative, they want them gone. They don't even want them at the show anymore. And,
exactly.
I mean, luckily the security people there are huge and terrifying humans. I'm pretty sure that they don't even go to the gym. They just work out by tossing Lincolns across the parking lot. I think that's their workout. But yeah, it was just, and to me that was really scary. And you know, like I've had people, and I don't like the term, but I'm going to use it because I don't like that the word pass is used. Like, what am I passing exactly? But I've been told by people that I am white passing.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Air quotes there. Air quotes.
Yeah.
And like I'm dating a black woman. So like there's a scene in there where there's a white woman with a man who's actually Latin. Yeah. And he's using like racial slurs for a black person instead. Is it, look at that beautiful Aryan woman with that, like, and then they come over and the guy's going to try to kill him, and then Daniel Radcliffe kind of like gets them out of the situation, then like, but
that was a well done scene. That was good.
Oh yeah, very much so. And I had this genuine concern, like that if someone like this sees us, like that, you know, are they going to have like a problem? And if they are they going to be violent with us?
That is crazy to think that it literally just like existing as a couple irritates certain people. Like something that has nothing to do with them, just the fact that you are with her, that's an issue. Like,
and I mean, I just told her like straight up, because we were watching the movie together actually. I just told her straight up, I was like, look, if anything like that ever happens, I distract them and you run. Like, I'm physically incapable of running anyway, and you're pretty fast, so it makes sense. I mean, I should just be the one. And she was like, I mean, I don't know that she liked the idea, but I mean, I think she agreed to it because she understood my intent. But I just don't like that. Like, we actually had somebody ask us at the grocery store, like, oh, excuse me, are you two a couple? And it's like, yes.
Yeah, that's a weird question. I've never asked people if they were a couple. That is just a weird question to ask people. Like, what is the context and why?
But then he asked us for money after that. So I don't know if it was related to just small talking.
Yeah, he may have just wanted a
And then, you know, for me, like,
how is that your go-to small talk question?
That
is so weird. Hey, are you two a couple?
Yeah, and it was like an older man too, and I just thought maybe like I don't know, it just bothered me. But it's just like something where like it's not something you should really. I don't think anybody should bat an eye at. But for me, that particular scene I was very sensitive to, because I was kind of like, man, that's like, I don't know, you know, like I'm not really. But it really was weird, wasn't it? Like how well Daniel Radcliffe like looked the part after he shaved his head.
Yeah, he would, and also not only he looked the part perfectly, but he also played the part that he was supposed to play so well. And I think scenes like that demonstrated it. That was where my brain was trying to go so perfectly, where he was able to think on his feet for the reason why it would make sense to want that couple to get out of there. Yeah. It was very well done. Like, it was like he had an in-character reason that it was like, no, why do you want to win a small battle? Okay, best case scenario, we get in some fight, even if like we kill that couple, 3 of us get arrested. If your main belief is this movement that you're on, you just lost 3 people to their 2. that's a losing battle. But to Roy, who's thinking of just like, instant gratification and like no bigger plan, it's like, oh well, I just see something in front of me that's a problem that needs quote unquote solved. And like it just showed like this level of like how he was so much smarter than Roy, but had to deal with Roy as a problem. There was like, no, here's the answer. Here's why you're an idiot. Let's move past this.
And I think it in some way is a testament to sort of that skinhead mentality. Like there's I forget which album and which song it was, but Eminem has a lyric where he says something about who knew there was so much anger aimed in no particular direction, just sprays and sprays. That it's just someone who's feels marginalized and who's very angry and just wants to find a way to express that rage. And they find this group of people because like there's nothing more I don't know the word to use, but it's when you do an action in unison with a group of people. Like at the end of jiu-jitsu, 3 good claps, clap, clap, clap. Everybody claps at the same time. We used to do that. Like a salute, something like that. That Sieg Heil thing with the hand or whatever, when you do that with a group of people, and it's a well-engineered gesture for a militant group.
Yeah.
Because they hit their chest in an aggressive fashion first, and they all do it at the same time, and it creates this mental idea of belonging.
Yeah, there's a beyond camaraderie. There's like this connection that's formed. Yeah.
And it's like it's just something about humans. It's about our need to have a group to feel safe and to be afraid of the other.
Yep.
And it's just I think that a lot of these young people get preyed upon. Like American History X with Edward Norton.
Yeah. This movie reminded me a lot of that. Yeah. Well, and even at the end with Johnny, like how you see Johnny reform at the end, and even says like it's victimization. Like that's the core of everything. Is it just like you're talking about? It's blaming and it's finding yourself the victim.
But it's just so scary how you can appeal to this sense in somebody who feels victimized and feels marginalized, and you can talk them into being something so deplorable.
Yeah.
Like something so harmful. And it's I don't know what the solution is, but it's just one of those things in this movie that like honestly, like I'm getting a little teary-eyed thinking about this because it's just like I don't want young people to feel that way, and when they do, I don't want someone to take advantage of them and turn them into this monster, for lack of a better word.
The solution has to be in education. It's like it's the same way people get radicalized has to be the same way to prevent it. Where like it even says in the movie, like what it ends with, and they brought up multiple times about how it all starts with the word. And even like Gary talks about how, Gary's character in this was great because he's a brilliant man, like a brilliant, rational man that you can normally. I thought that was one thing that was really cool about this because I love hearing views that I disagree with explained by someone with a level head on their shoulders. It's like, and that's something that I don't very often hear because normally it's like, it's like flat earthers. Like you can't have a conversation with a flat earther that's going to make sense. It's like, but in this, it was like the character Gary had like, for lack of a better term, not that I agreed with him, but it's like he had reasons for his belief and he had an eloquent way of speaking that it's like he at least was able to defend his thoughts, not like Roy and some of the other characters that just seem to be like almost manifestations of violence.
Yeah. I mean, with Gary, like I know I'm just stating the obvious here, and but it's just that there were a lot of holes in what Gary was saying. Yeah. But he at least had something. Like, yeah. At least he had an argument you could argue against. Whereas like the other guys in the group, the ones he starts out with, like, we hate these people. Yeah. Why? I don't know. We just fucking do. Now let's get drunk and listen to some angry music. Like,
exactly. Okay. Yep.
You got any cocaine? I like that. It's like, and to me, it just, but I think that while Gary has some ideas and he seems to have some reasons for it, that for me, Gary is also the most dangerous person, and not just because of his actions, but because he has this set of beliefs and these books that he's read. But like at the end of all of his reasons is at least 3 or 4 conspiracy theories too.
Exactly. Yes. Correct. Yep.
And like yeah, it's just such an interesting contrast. And then of course, like the militant group too,
Mm-hmm.
like they have like
The
firearms.
Aryan, what are they called in this? Aryan Army or I forget what it
I
was.
think so. And they have like a compound or
Yeah,
whatever.
two. There was the one in Ohio that we never seen, and they're building the new one in DC. Yeah.
And and I don't want to make this like a political thing or like a pro-gun debate or whatever, but while we were watching this, like myself and my partner, like she and I are sitting there watching this, and as I'm seeing these people with this stockpile of weapons, I just looked at her and I said, this is why we're armed. I said, this is the reason why, because these motherfuckers are gonna find this shit. They fucking will.
I had I had the same like thinking while watching this movie. I was like, I don't have enough ammo. It was like, no, that's a stupid thing. That was just a stupid thought, but it was like I really had I need to buy more ammo.
It was just like I mean, and I don't want to sound like some like dumb like constipated thought like gun guy, like everyone should be armed, bro. We'll only be safe if we're all pointing guns at each other. Like I'm not, like that's not what I'm saying. But like when people talk about that, the it's a kind of a silly argument, but the whole like then you just put law-abiding citizens and not even silly, it's just tired, it's used all the time.
Yeah.
If you outlaw, then the criminals will, and the law-abiding citizens won't be armed, and okay. But I think that when people are making that argument, they're thinking about gang violence, they're thinking about robberies or muggings, but the real severity is individuals who believe that they are 100% right.
Yeah.
They have some profound cause that they, even if it's stupid, like fervently believe in.
Yeah.
They're gonna find a way. They're gonna get these things. And I understand, like, yes, we have an army, we have the National Guard. So we do have people that are trained who would be able to fight if there was a situation in which some people like, I consider them terrorists.
Yeah.
I think,
yeah,
like white supremacist groups that are
yeah.
trying to use violence to push their agenda. I would call that terrorism.
Yeah, if you use fear to, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But it's also, I think it's also necessary for all of us to have some way to resist if somebody wants to do that. I understand the whole government tyranny argument thing for guns, but it's not that. It's shit like that.
Yeah.
It's terrorists.
It's all threats, domestic and foreign. Yeah. It's
right.
not, yeah.
And like, and like I said, yeah, we do have soldiers, we have a military, we have people that can respond if something like that happens, but can they do it quickly enough to really defend people before shit goes completely to hell?
Yeah.
Because it's nice to think that it's all talk.
Yeah.
But what about the situation where it's not?
Exactly. And that's what I liked that this movie explored, is that a lot of them were all talk. And that was interesting to see, but then it was scary when you meet Gary. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that isn't all talk. And actually, not even like, that's honestly, I didn't think about that until right now. That's the scariest thing about Gary is it's not that he's not all talk, he is no talk. It's not it's not the people that like, it's the ones that don't talk about it at all that are the scariest. And I think this movie, which also I just mentioned a little bit ago, reminded me of American History X a lot. American History X showed the kind of man behind the curtain idea very well too, even though it was really just kind of with one group that was like the skin group, but they had that older guy, I forget what his name was in American History X, but he was the like unseen leader that was obviously pulling the strings, but could not be like, seen close to a lot of the people that were, on the ground. But
yeah, and it actually was a really good way that they did that in that movie. It's like that's one of those movies where like I would never want to do an episode on, because it's like that movie.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that's rough to watch. It's like the curb stomp scene is always tough to watch. Yeah.
One of the most terrible things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and
it's terrifying how well Edward Norton plays that scene.
Yeah,
like it is scary.
He's a good actor, man.
Oh yeah, he does very good work.
Yeah,
I understand he's difficult to work with. Did you find the little KKK wedding scene somewhat comical? Like seriously, the shit that the guy's saying, he's like, thank God for how white these white people are, the whitest of the whiteness. Together being white, making white babies. I was like, Jesus Christ, does this really happen? Please tell me it doesn't.
See, that's the thing, is it would only be comical if I thought that it wasn't possible.
I just thought that it wasn't. That's why I laughed at it. Like, there's no way anyone like this exists.
I don't see, and I want to believe that, but I don't know. I really, and it's like, you know, like the media nowadays, they got me believing that people like that may exist. So I really don't know, but
I mean, to be fair, the KKK do call their leaders Grand Dragons, if that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Whether or not that, like, weddings like that happen, I guarantee there are people that agree with everything he was saying. And that is scary. Like, whether or not, like, what he was saying, well, like, yes, it's ridiculous and it would be comical if it wasn't actually possible, but it's like the fact that there are people that would probably hear that and be like, hell yeah, brother, like that scares me.
Like, in that exact same tone of voice, the exact same accent and everything. Well, you know, I think that's the thing you said about education is it goes a little further than that too, because I think it's exposure. Yeah. Like, I think that oftentimes there's actually, I do not remember the name of the lady, but she did a documentary. She is, I think her parents were Persian. And they moved here, and I think she's lived in she might have been, I think her parents moved to, I think she's British. Okay. So her parents were Persian and they moved to England. Okay. And she came to the US and she like actually hung out with these like white supremacist groups. And there was one guy in the group that at the end of the film, and it's actually kind of touching because it's real. I mean, this is actually something that happens. Yeah, yeah. That she came and she hung out with these people and talked to them and asked them about their ideas. And one of the guys in the organization said he had to leave. Yeah. Because he said, like, I met you. Yep. And I've spent time with you and you're my friend. Yep. It's different when the person's in front of you. You can hate an idea. But it's a lot harder to hate a person when you actually get to know them as a person. And I think that was like what Toni Collette's character kind of talked about with why she picked Daniel or Nate to go into that role was it's like, I knew that you would understand them and they would understand you. And that's like the key to, I think, so much of this is not only, you know, of course, in that the intention there was to like create an understanding so you could infiltrate them and you know basically dissolve their plot, but I think the key to fixing this is just understanding each other's ideas to begin with, and that's like there's a talking past each other and just a not trying to understand where people are coming from that is the core of so much of it in my opinion. Yeah, agreed. And I mean, you know, this idea that, and I think it's instinctive for humans to judge superficially, like to look at someone's appearance and try to extrapolate all these other ideas from it. Yeah. But I think it's really important because you recognize that you can't make a mold. And when you do that, all of that every time, like it's never going to work. And there's always going to be somebody that actually there will usually be many people that won't fit whatever stereotype it is you have for whatever group. But the problem is that some people will be exposed and meet individuals of another perceived like ethnic group or whatever, and they won't be swayed by the fact that this person's actually pretty cool. Yep. And they have some things in common. And the fact that there was only in this documentary of all the people she talked to, there was only one person. Yeah. Who was like, you're actually pretty cool, and I thought all these things, and now I know that like it's just some shit that like I was told because I never hung out with anybody that wasn't, you know. Which I would have hoped and I would have expected that percentage to be higher. That I would have thought that so much of that came from a lack of exposure, and that the exposure would be that education. But yeah, unfortunately, I think that there are many people that are probably, for lack of a better term, like too far gone, right? Yeah, and you know, I know that in this episode, because of the movie we're talking about race, we're talking about anti-Semitism, we're talking about white supremacy, we're talking about all these other like ideas because that's just in the movie, but it goes so much further than that. Yeah, like it's tribalism. Those goddamn Republicans, like, well, have you ever hung out with one? Like those stupid liberals, like, well, do you know any? That's the thing is like so much of that just becomes an idea of. It's like a character thing. It's like, and I've seen that with so many people that you know, on both sides. But like where you know it'll become this thing where like, oh well, they say this, and it becomes like, oh, every argument I've heard from side X is now attributed to this character, and it's like, well,
is that really the same person saying all those things, or did you hear Bobby say this and Tina say this and Billy say this, and you're putting all of them into one team together and saying they all believe the same thing? But one thing you brought up a second ago that made me think about this. Have you ever seen the, do you know who Darren Brown is? He's an English, he calls himself like a mentalist, or he does like they're not magic performances, but he's able to like do like he says he's not like a hypnosis, but he knows how to like force you to answer certain things in certain ways. He's able to like set things up, and you know who I'm talking about? Have you ever seen this shit?
Oh, okay, yeah. I just had to Google him. I've seen this guy. Yeah.
He did a really interesting thing back in 2018. It was called Sacrifice. It was a whole feature where he set up one person that was racist, that was basically a white supremacist, did not want people, and like the goal was to put him through a constructed series of events that at the end of it would make him give up his life for a Mexican man, and literally like stand in the way of a bullet and give his life. And it worked. And one of the awesome things that he did during this journey was, I forget what they had a name for this concept, but it was literally just sitting and staring silently into the other person's eyes for a few minutes. And it was like the amount of compassion that he left and like not learning anything about this other person, but just sitting and just having this moment with a person of another race, like that changed him profoundly. And it was very interesting to see that of like, he didn't need to, there was no words exchanged. It was literally just looking into each other's eyes.
And man, it's interesting because of the subject matter of this film. I had a feeling we were going to talk more about the ideas than the film, but I think that it's a necessary thing. And if I'm honest, I think this is the purpose. I think this is why the creators made this movie.
Of course, yeah, yep.
Like because they didn't exactly. I don't know that they had a lot of money to make it. I mean, it didn't make a lot of money. But the thing is it kind of makes sense because I understand why the audience score is low. And I think it's because people put the ideas in the film before the acting and the production of it.
I've dealt with that so much with where people like you brought up, there sometimes is good art that just makes you feel uncomfortable. Feeling uncomfortable
as fuck this whole movie, like the whole thing.
But that does not mean the art is bad. It's like that can be the intention, and I think a lot of times people don't necessarily get that. And I understand if you have the right to choose your entertainment, and if you don't want to be made feel uncomfortable, that's 100% your choice. But that doesn't mean that it's bad art. And I think that very often that's like anytime there's like the idea of rape in a story. Yes, that can be a trigger warning for people, and that is a disgusting subject, but that may be the point of it, is to show how disgusting that is. And that can be like a powerful medium to express ideas. So to just say that something is like, oh, because this movie's about white supremacists, it's horrible. It's like, well, no, there's a lot more to it than that. Like, I think that same thing is going on with that Cuties movie or show or whatever, where it's like, I don't know how much of that you've heard, but there's a lot of people, like, apparently it's supposed to be more to show the why there's a danger in young women being sexualized, but people are taking it as like, no, this is kiddie porn. It's like, well, is it? I don't know. Like, I think that's maybe just being too black and white about things. I think there's a lot more to media than that.
Yeah, I mean, it was unavoidable for about a week.
Yeah.
It was like everywhere that I looked. So I've heard about it. And I thought to myself, like, it was a really weird. I was like, well, I feel like I need to see this for myself. No, I don't really need to. I was like, because I thought like I would like to form my own opinion, but I'm just gonna fucking trust everybody about it. Like, I don't want that in my fucking Netflix history or whatever. I'm just like, no.
I scrubbed through it to see if it was like as bad as people said. And it's like, I mean, it's like an hour and a half movie, and I probably spent literally 5 minutes just skipping scene to scene to see what, and it's like, I just saw what seemed like a normal teen movie. And like, yeah, there were probably, I don't know. It's weird to me that like, it's such a big hot button issue, but.
And I mean, I watched like the trailer, that's it.
Gotcha,
and that's like 90 seconds long. It's like, it's not. And that's pretty much it. But for me, I was like, that was one of the things where I was like, I'm not even going to get involved with this one. Like, I'm not even going to form an opinion.
Yeah, I purposely didn't suggest that as a movie, because it was like, there was 1 week where it would have been a good one to do, but it was like, nah, let's just not.
Dude, yeah, because
should you watch Cuties would have probably gotten some clicks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they would demonetize, cancel everything, like done. Like you'll never work in this town again.
Let's see, real quick. I know you got to go soon, but real quick before you go, that's I do want to talk about the ending. What did it mean to you when Johnny said at the end, like, well, you know, it all starts with the word?
I think that they're I don't know what the creators were thinking, but if you listen to the music, I think that they wanted to state at the end of the film a quote from Adolf Hitler that was put in print at the beginning of the film to make you wonder, is he really done? But also, I think that maybe they were trying to show you that in the same way that it starts with like a word or the word, that it can also end with it, that I can start this other thing, which is to the contrary of this. I can take this person's idea that intended to spread something evil, I'll call it that. I think that anybody would agree, and I can use.
I know we're both not fans of that word, but I think it fits.
Like, I know that this other word can start something different.
Exactly.
That maybe I can take what I learned here, and then I can use what they use to turn me into this, to turn somebody into something good, or to stop someone from becoming this, to not allow others to be manipulated like I was.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I took from too, is it's kind of like, well, if it starts with the word, maybe I can get this word in first. If these kids are young enough, it's like I can reach them first with this word before the other one gets there. But
I might need to rewatch it, because I mean I bought it because you could only buy it on Prime, and it was $3.99. So I was like, that's the same price to rent it, so screw it.
Yeah, I did the same. Yep.
I mean, I'll just go back and watch it, because I think that they had some somewhat ominous music right there too.
Yeah,
but that might have just been to screw with the audience a little bit.
My initial feeling was like, holy shit, is he saying that he's not out? But then, like, when I immediately rewound and watched it. Then I also like Googled and just saw like a few people what they said about it, and it seemed that it was like, I think that it is intended that he's performed. One thing I do think that while Googling this, someone brought up, I forget what Reddit user this was, but your comment was perfect, and I have to say the same thing. Why did they not have the scene where Nate goes back and talks to dude from the bodega about why he was at that rally? he really should have, man.
It's like they really should have, because it's like, how do you explain that to your friend?
Right? Yeah, like,
look, dude, I'm really sorry, but
I'm an undercover FBI agent. I was, I mean, like that. I just think that would have been a good scene.
Shit, you're a white supremacist. We're not friends anymore.
That would have just been a good scene to include, is like him, like, because that was a super awkward moment. It's like I wondered, like, oh fuck, where is this going? But and one other thing that you brought up a little bit of the like the dude acting like another dude. I thought it was really cool that we got to see, like, it almost seemed like a little doorway into Daniel's process when he was trying out the different ways of introducing himself as Nate Thomas. That was kind of cool. I was like, hold on, here's an actor trying out different ways of saying this line as a character. Like, which version is he going to be? That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is true. It's kind of like a meta like moment, like acting inside of a film.
Yep.
Or like, oh, also, I'm probably just going to go put on a white t-shirt and the jacket that I have that looks just like his for the thumbnail.
Okay. I shaved my head, and I have a I figure we just both throw up some Zeke Hiles and
let's get canceled. Yeah. Woohoo! Here, let me go get my razor and turn this beard into it. Never mind.
Let's see. First, let's see. Let's do favorite line. I've got a good favorite line from this. I was really impressed by this line, so much that I thought it was a quote from something else and went and Googled it, and I'm seeing only from this movie. So I think it's actually like an original from this movie, but I thought it was great. It's short, but it's sweet. A man's body dies, but his deeds live forever. Isn't that a good quote?
It is a really good quote.
Yeah, and that's that is apparently original from this movie. I see it nowhere else.
Yeah, when he said it, I was like, man, I like that. That is cool. It sounded like something that somebody else said, and if they hadn't, they should have already.
That's what I was worried. I was like, man, I really love that quote, and I was scared I was going to look and find that it's a Hitler quote or something, and be like, God damn it, Hitler!
I have a feeling that somebody might have said this one as well. It was toward the end of the film, and I think I wrote it down right. I tried to Google it to get it right, but I couldn't find it. Because when it comes down to it, there is one key ingredient to fascism.
Guys, that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. And if you were watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Imperium. If you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, you can join our Discord. The link is in the description down below. And we'll be live next week on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, to talk about Into the Wild. It's going to be on twitch.tv/TylerTV. Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you have a great week. All